Thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Graham. I really appreciate this. Let me just start off as to what makes the GOES-U satellite so different from the other non-GOES weather satellites out there.
Well, I think the whole GOES program began in 1975 with the first launch, but this is the GOES R series, just an incredible amount of advancements in technology, and that started with the first launch in 2016. So I mean, this satellite's able to give us those images that we've seen, the 1 minute data of thunderstorms that are forming, just an incredible amount of resolution. But this is also the satellite that gave us the lightning mapper to be able to see the lightning, the intensity that the National Weather Service uses when the lightning really picks up as an indicator of the storm strengthening. So that's been an incredible tool, not just with thunderstorms, but also using the lightning mapper to detect lightning in places in the western United States where it could ignite a fire. And if you see the detail in the satellite, allows us to differentiate between clouds and even smoke to give firefighters a heads up, and even remote areas where there could be fire initiation. But the GOES-U, this is the final one. This is the final one in the GOES series, and it has a new sensor called the Compact Coronagraph. And I'm really excited about this because there's a mission here at the National Weather Service that most people don't realize we have. We're responsible for issuing the watches and warnings and the forecast for space weather, for the sun when you have the solar flares and it sends an incredible amount of energy towards the Earth. We issue those watches and warnings like we just had the G5 event here recently where people saw the aurora. So as a result, this new one, instead of 8 hours data that we had before to look at the sun's corona, now we're going to get that data every 30 minutes. It's a game changer for us. It's going to allow us to issue those watches and warnings even earlier.
And that was just one of my questions. I just find it so interesting. People hear weather satellite, they said, okay, it's go track storms, hurricanes, and whatnot, but it's tracking space weather. And is that sort of a new thing or something that has always been happening? Because, as you just said, this is a game changer.
Yeah, we've had the responsibility for decades, but it's hard to get the data. I mean, you'd be able to. We have some sensors that can look at the sun with some detail, but we really didn't have the capability to have the detail to analyze it, to see what the speed could be headed towards the Earth, the strength of that flare. So we've had that responsibility, but this one is a game changer because being able to see the corona every 30 minutes, to actually see the detail, it's absolutely another way to look at it. It's almost generating an eclipse every 30 minutes to block out the brightest part of the sun, to really look at the edges of it to see where those solar flares are. So that ability to have that data every 30 minutes, it's a game changer for us at the Space Weather Prediction Center in Boulder, Colorado.
It really is. I think for us here in Florida, hurricanes are always a major issue. We just got into our hurricane season. So, how will the GOES-U help our meteorologists better predict these types of storms?
And the GOES-U continues in this GOES-R series, which allows us to see, really a good view from the continental United States, the Florida Peninsula, but also across the Atlantic to the African coast. So I remember at the Hurricane Center just really looking at the monsoons that are taking place in Africa and seeing which ones are going to be developing and coming off the coast, and having the detail to see if there's wind shear in those areas, being able to see the actual winds to see what kind of shear, would it develop, would it not develop, and give us a heads up there. That's a game changer because when you have that kind of detail, it really helps us give advance notice on those forecasts. The other thing too is to have data that can really peer into the center of the storm. For us to be able to see when you get those eye wall replacements is really critical to forecasting, because those could expand the storm. They could change the speed of the storm and get some wobbling that could eventually change the track of the storm. So to have the detail in the GOES-U like that really makes a big difference in how we forecast and the impacts to Florida associated with these strong storms.
With the GOES-R series basically retiring after this launch, what is the next big satellite that NOAA is looking at or even working on?
Yeah, we get ahead of the game on these satellites because it takes a long time to build such sophistication. So they're designed, the Go series is designed to last 10 years, and then another 5 years in storage as a backup. And the next one for the 2030s is something called GeoXO. And the GeoXO satellite will be the next generation following GOES, and it'll have additional capability, additional resolution, and sounding capability. And what I mean by that is really looking at the profile of the atmosphere, which we do now somewhat, and especially we get data from our weather balloons, but to have sensors on board to really look at the profile of the atmosphere could be a real game changer for forecasting. So we're excited about that. And it's also going to have atmospheric chemistry sensors on board to really look at the quality, the air quality of the air, really helping out with air pollution type of forecast and human health. So those sensors are going to be on board the next generation. So I'm pumped up about that one too.
It's amazing how far technology has advanced and what they're just looking at now and what they plan to do in the next 10, 20 years.
Absolutely. Every one of the big advancements in meteorology, you can really trace back to some sort of technology, from the first satellites in the 1960s to looking at the radar in the 1980s and 90s with the 88D radar coming in, just game changers. So this new technology, as a meteorologist, every time you see new things, you see things you've never seen before, and that leads to the research and studies to get that into operation. So every one of these is another leap in technology and another leap for services associated with meteorology.
Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing these wonderful insights on the Goes You launch that's happening later today. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Take care.